All right. Um, welcome, guys. I'm of course having to do this a little differently tonight. I'm on my cell phone instead of on my camera because right as I decided to do this, I realized that well, my my camera was out of batteries. So uh, bear with me while I get everything reset up. Nope. Huh. Okay. So, yeah, now I've got it on the YouTube, so um, I can watch it and then watch the screen here. So, I've got a Tenoroon tonight. It's been a long time since I've had one on this channel. Um, if you are a really long time subscriber, you'll know that actually the original name of my channel was Tenoroon because I just wanted to upload videos when I owned a Tenoroon. Sadly, I sold it, oh man, probably 2012, maybe 2013, sometime around then. It was a time when I wasn't doing a lot of music. I wasn't doing any music at that time. Um, yeah, so you remember the video of me trying to play a high C on it, which is corresponding to high F. So I went down today to the Vocal Majority store in Richardson, Texas, and I rented one for a month. And I have not played it yet. Due to coronavirus, of course, I wasn't going to play it in store, so I just rented it pretty much sight unseen and brought it home with me. And I have not touched it since I got home, so I decided to wait and do a live stream. So I've got it here. This one is in the key of F, though that's considering the bassoon to be in the key of C. If we consider the bassoon to be in the key of F, this Tenoroon is in the key of B flat. Which is all sorts of confusing, and we can talk about that a little bit. So right off the bat, I do not know how this instrument plays. I hope it will be okay for the purposes that I need. And of course, the purposes I need are I am going to be recording the Tenoroon part for Symphony Number 2. It's one of the last woodwind parts that still needs to be recorded. And of course, I'm going to take it on myself because it's not a part that I expect anybody else really to be able to play, so I'll do it myself. But I've got it here. And right off the bat, I cannot tell you exactly what brand this is. It is at least designed after the Wolf instruments, but I actually think it is probably a Chinese clone. In that there is one mark right next to the neck strap ring that looks like it's a Chinese character. And it's got a serial number on it that begins HT814, and that was not one of the serial number stylings that Wolf used. You'll see Tenoroons made by Wolf and some marketed by Howarth. The Howarth instruments are actually just Wolf instruments. There are several others. There are a few that come out of China. Most of the ones that come out of China that I've seen are instruments in G. But here we go. A Tenoroon, ostensibly a Chinese instrument. This particular one does come with 2 vocals. I'll see if there's any kind of marking on them. Does not look to be. They are quite a bit different from one another in terms of length. At least looks like about 5 millimeters difference. I'm going to start off with the longer of the two. Though, who knows? Maybe I'll like the shorter one. Okay. So, Tenoroon in F. Yes, I can see the chat. I cannot see it when I'm looking at the phone, though I have to look over here to my computer. So I've got computer over here to my left. I've got phone here, videotaping. Yes. And yes, Ratchet, you like the shirt. Yes, and part of the reason I wore the shirt today is because I bought it where I rented the Tenoroon from. So, first notes, I'm going to play an open F. This should sound B flat 3. I'm hoping this thing is in F. If it's not, I'm going to have to retranspose the part of the symphony, but super flat. I'm going to switch to the shorter vocal. And it is entirely possible that this instrument has really never been played much. Let's see. Does the Tenoroon have a high D key? No. Oh, you were just playing a B flat. Yeah, open F should sound B flat. Open F would be a C. No. So this is an F Tenoroon. You're thinking the G Tenoroon. So yeah, everything is a fourth up. So right now I am not getting a high C, high B flats. We're topping out. So yeah. Does it have a French style bell? Okay, so the bell on it, it's actually wooden. It's not an ivory ring. It's not a metal ring. It's a wooden ring on it, and that is very much in the style of the Wolf instruments, which means it could be Wolf. There's a few other things on here that make me think it could be. However, the elegance of the key work leads me to think otherwise. The keys are very much squared off on some of them. They're not elegantly rounded. And Wolf has some pretty elegant key work design, even on the student instruments. So I'm thinking it is a Chinese clone of the Wolf instruments. So, but so one of the reasons I was a few minutes delayed is I was frantically looking for the print part to Symphony 2. What do the left-hand thumb keys look like? Okay, well let's go ahead and we'll take a look at the key work on this particular instrument. And while we do that, I am going to get out the handrest. So we got a handrest on here. Very, very short shank on it. and it's probably going to be so short that I cannot use it. Yeah, so I am going to see what if my bassoon's handrest will fit in here, and so we're just going to put my bassoon's handrest on here. Yeah, and that works okay and fits fairly well. Okay, so left hand thumb keywork. So we'll turn it around, and you'll see that it's got a whisper key. So this one actually does have a whisper key, C sharp, A, and high C, and then you're just regular low D, low C, low B, and low B flat. Nothing really out of the ordinary here, but I do have the functioning whisper. Right thumb, I just have B flat, low E or pancake key, and F sharp. There is no thumb A flat. Over here, very simplified key work, first finger, second finger, third finger. There's no alternative B flat. There's also no pinky F sharp. So I can't play F sharp with the pinky like I normally do for the upper register. How are the fingerings different than a standard bassoon? Not very. Unlike the difference between bassoon and contrabassoon, the fingerings are not terribly different. Obviously, there are things I'm going to do for tuning that will be different. And I will, as I have this instrument over the next month, I will be kind of exploring some of that stuff, figuring out exactly how to tune it best. I've not sat down with a tuner here, so there will be notes that are that I'm just going to have to temper some. Where should you go to buy a Wolf bassoon? Right now, the only place I know that is carrying Wolf bassoons in the U.S. is Midwest Musical Imports. And that's just for the regular Wolf bassoon, which I've got here. You know what? Let's show you the difference between a regular bassoon and a tenor bassoon. And you can, of course, start to see that, let's see if I can back up just a little bit, that the tenor is considerably smaller. Maybe I'll do some more comparisons as we go along the stream. This particular Tenoroon I am, of course, renting from Vocal Majority in Richardson, Texas. Highly recommend them. They're fantastic people there. Always have a good time when I go visit. But let's see. And I'm really kind of mad at myself because I cannot find the Tenoroon part to play some excerpt from Symphony 2. Maybe I can bring up a PDF of it. Hopefully I've got a PDF created. I'm not sure. I created PDFs of all the parts except possibly Tenoroon. Oh, I got it. It's an old part, but it will work just fine. Okay. Alright, so as that's bringing up, I noticed that the Tenoroon doesn't have a E or high E or E natural keys. The highest note is C. Well, the highest note I can play right now on this instrument with this reed is a B flat. So I can't actually even go above high B flat. So I'll just start a chromatic scale starting on open F. And I'm not liking the tuning of that, so let me try a different fingering. Nope. A flat, and I'm having to figure out as I go which fingering works best, and the finger that works best is in the right hand, thumb, and A flat. And I'm having to figure out aha, there's the problem. Whisper key's not closing. How much does it weigh? About half the weight of a regular bassoon. Yeah, roughly about half the weight of a regular bassoon. I don't have a scale. So there's high A and B flat. That's going to sound high E and, high D and B flat at top of the treble clef. That's a B, and that's right now the highest note I can get. How would you need to work on the reeds to increase the range of the instrument? I like the code of the low register, but it seems like you can play higher on your regular bassoon. Yes, I can play higher on my regular bassoon. So the first thing, this instrument has in all Tenoroons, not just this one. They have design flaws. They are not really designed to play in the upper register. Most modern Tenoroons, in fact, all modern Tenoroons, are designed currently as children's instruments. So they're designed as teaching instruments. Therefore, they are designed to take a regular bassoon reed, which is too big for the vibrations that it needs to produce. So the bocal, it doesn't have the right taper to it. It's got a much wider taper than normal. Another thing that will hinder the instrument is the lack of a U-tube. So I'm going to close up here, and you can see that this is the U-bend. It's actually not a U-bend at all. It's just plugged up with two corks down here, so there is no direct bending of the air down here. So that's going to lead to some acoustical problems. Now, mostly it's going to affect the lowest register, but it will affect the high register as well. Hopefully there will be Tenoroons made to a professional standard. 3D printed Tenoroons when? Probably next year. One of the things, no, not the next project, but it is one of the projects that will be worked on. So, right off the bat. So, yes, I have this. I also have my new bore measuring equipment. So, what I'm going to be doing is measuring the bore of this Tenoroon pretty thoroughly, doing calculations on it and whatnot. And in doing that, I will your dumb joke is not a dumb joke, because I do plan on doing it, and hopefully, yes. So yeah, I'm going to be doing bore measurements on it to figure out kind of how things are working on this instrument. The only thing I won't be able to measure is the vocal. Oh well, I should be able to get better data though. When's the next subcontra bassoon update stream coming? I don't know. I'm not Richard Bobo. Maybe he could tell you. But I could do right now an update on the great bassoon. In fact, let's do that. I got enough people here watching. I can update the great bassoon because I have it sitting next to me. I also have a bassoon and a Tenoroon, so 3 bassoon members next to me. That's cool. All right, so first up, I've got the bass joint here. The bass joint has not been updated yet. Jared and I will sit down in the next few days, hopefully, and do a redesign on this because we're going to make it long, incorporate the next tone hole, and the tone holes are all 10 millimeters off of where they should be. Because Doofus here measured wrong. Okay. Oh, what is in my bag of goodies? It's like Christmas. All right, so I've got the wing joint here. I don't know. I'm thinking this. It would almost be better to call this the crook. I know that the British call the bogle a crook, but man, this is so much more like a crook than because a crook means a shepherd's crook, and this looks exactly like what a shepherd would carry. But the update this week is I ordered on Amazon this, and this is a cello peg. There's always room for cello, and what we decided is it pink Teflon tape? No, it's cotton string that's been waxed. It's not wrapped very well, and I may end up just corking it. But for right now, it's just the traditional red string. So I ordered this, got it in, and Jared and I decided to make the boot joint where it will accept a cello peg. So what we did is you'll see down here at the bottom of the boot joint, it now looks like there are 3 holes. Well, the third hole is a receiver for the cello peg. So you can just slip it right in. And lo and behold, look at that. Got a peg. And with it, it will just sit on the ground just like this. So just like that. So the peg is going to be between the instrument and the player's body. And I can just put it in here like this. I can put the bass joint in. And I now have the instrument where it will sit on the ground just like this. And it's in an ergonomically very, very comfortable position. And I could sit like this all day long, and the instrument does not feel heavy. It sits beautifully right on the floor. It's not going anywhere. The other thing that I've discovered, if I extend the peg all the way, I can nearly play it standing, which is an added bonus. But the peg would need to be about 2-3 inches taller for me to really comfortably play it standing. Let's see. Yeah, that's just not going to work camera-wise. So, but yeah, I could easily play this standing with the peg fully extended. So that's kind of my great bassoon update. Got to redo the bass joint, and the bell joint will come after that. And then we'll have a completed instrument that will be ready for some keys. Okay, so back to Tenoroon. All right, so let's see. Let's talk a little bit of history of the Tenoroon. For whatever reason, this is like the talk about the alto clarinet being the dark horse of the woodwind family. Nobody talks about it, nobody uses it, and it's there. This is even more obscure, but in the same sense, it's considerably older than the alto clarinet is. So it's been around longer. So if we can go back to the dulcian, the predecessor of the bassoon, the tenor dulcians were used quite frequently. You would have dulcian consorts. Look at the music of Heinrich Schütz, and his motets have tenor dulcian parts all over them. You can use 2, sometimes 3. Psalm 24, I think, has 5 bassoon parts in it, dulcian. He never specified which ones, but there's several in tenor clef, which would indicate the tenor instrument. We also have surviving Baroque tenor bassoons, and some from the classical era and throughout the Romantic era, but we have very little in the way of surviving literature for the instrument, which means, well, we don't know exactly what it means. Were there smaller sizes of tenor dulcians? Well, there were smaller sizes of dulcians, but they weren't tenors. There's alto dulcians and soprano or descant dulcians. Out at There have been a few attempts that's even smaller than that, but at some point they do get to just too small to be really feasible. So tenor was pretty standard. You'd get an alto every now and then, and you get your bass, of course, which is what became the bassoon. And then one of the next popular sizes was the great bass. Boom. And there were a few contrabass dulcians as well. So we've got. I wonder if there were dulcian ensembles back then. Absolutely, it was called. It was a complete consort, and again, you see it in the music of Schutz, Schutz. Wonderful early Baroque German composer. Early Baroque, we're talking like 1600. He maybe even late 1500s, so very late Renaissance, early Baroque. That's kind of the heyday of the early Dulcian stuff. We don't get true bassoons until right around 1700, maybe 1690. But we will get some Tenoroons in the Baroque era. Around, we'll see them in late 1700s, or mid 1700s, 1750, 1760, maybe even 1770. There was a theory at one time. Beethoven wrote a trio for flute, bassoon, and piano, and the trio is just ungodly high. It goes up to a high C, which would have been difficult on the classical bassoon, but it would have been pretty doable on a Tenoroon. So some people speculated that Beethoven's trio for flute, oboe, flute, bassoon, and piano was for Tenoroon, but then it goes actually below the range of the Tenoroon, so that kind of shoots that idea. There were some people who thought that the English horn solo from Rossini's William Tell was for Tenoroon, because there was a weird Italian notation device for the English horn where they wrote it in bass clef, sounding up a fourth, just the exact transposition of the F Tenoroon. The way to debunk that one is there weren't F Tenoroons there. All the Tenoroons were in G. What we do know is that the Tenoroons were used as training instruments. The famous bassoon teacher Jeancourt, I may butcher that because I'm not exactly sure what country he's from. Eugène Jeancourt, I'm going to assume French. He started on Tenoroon and did recitals on it. We don't really have any of that music though that he used, so we're kind of left to wonder what was he doing with it. They were being made in very, very small numbers throughout the 1800s. We know of some from as late as like 1890, even 1900. A couple were made, but after that they were just dead. The only composer to really ever talk about the Tenoroon is Berlioz. And, oh, well, look at this. I just happen to have the Berlioz treatise right here. So, let me just go ahead and go to the section on the Tenoroon, which Berlioz calls the bassoon quint. The Tenoroon is a diminutive of the bassoon. Its pitch is a fifth higher, equating to the G instrument. It has about the same range and is pitched in two clefs, but is a transposing instrument. Its B-flat scale, when he gives a 3-octave B-flat scale, actually produces an F scale. He gives a 3-octave F scale. The Tenoroon occupies the same position above the bassoon as the English horn below the oboe. The English horn is written a fifth above the real sound, the Tenoroon a fifth below. The Tenoroon therefore plays in F when the bassoon plays in C, and in G when they are in D. This instrument is missing in most orchestras, but it is successfully replaced in its upper 2 octaves by the English horn. Its tone has less feeling, but more power than that of the English horn. It would be of excellent effect in military bands. It is a great pity and of great detriment to wind instrument bands that bassoons should be entirely excluded from them, whereas the rough and harsh sound of those orchestras could be considerably softened by an appropriate number of large and small bassoons. Berlioz is advocating for a lot of bassoons of multiple sizes to be added to wind bands. This was a time when bassoons had been kicked out of the wind bands. He also talks about it a little bit in the very final section of the book, the infamous orchestra chapter. I may end up doing an entire video one day on the Berlioz's orchestra chapter. And it's where he proposes his perfect orchestra, where he wants 4 tenoroons alongside 12 bassoons. But everybody looks at the numbers. Nobody actually reads the text that comes after. And the text that comes after is the most important part of the section. And he mentions the tenoroons once. By combining the low tones of oboes, English horns, tenoroons, and large flutes into a small band, expression of pious mourning in piano. That is pretty much the only orchestration device anybody has ever given on the tenoroon. Pious mourning in piano with those other instruments. But nobody's ever done it. Except me. And so that's the experiment. One of the experiments with Symphony No. 2 is, well, this is going to be really the first time anybody will ever get to hear a tenoroon in a large ensemble setting. So I'm kind of excited and kind of nervous because, well, obviously excited because, well, I think it will work. Nervous because if it doesn't work, then, well, we go back to the drawing board. Maybe I've been wrong this whole time. Brett is a history geek. Yes, I am. I do like a good history. Okay, so I'm going to play through some parts of Symphony 2. I finally got my PDF loaded. And so I'm going to play a little bit of Symphony 2. I'm just going to play some of the bits of the opening section. Okay, so that's kind of the opening melodies of the piece. And of course, I will have to go and work through that, work on tuning and response, kind of figure out exactly where everything lies on it. Let's see if I can play some of the more technical stuff. Okay, so right off the bat, octave D. So I've got to use the long D fingering. So, yeah, so lots of stuff that I'm going to have to work out there. Okay, here now is a difficult solo that I'm really going to have to work on. Okay, so this solo goes up to B. Can I make a small hole in the reed to play higher? Possibly. I'm almost wondering if the vocal pinhole is clogged. It really sounds like it. Because the notes that should be speaking should be vented through the pinhole in the vocal. So I may clean that out. And I'm wondering if it's just some loose solder in there. But yeah, so that is going may be the most difficult passage in the whole piece and it's a solo. And so what I may end up doing is doing some fudgery in Audacity and do some pitch changing. I'm obviously going to have to do that anyway, just to make sure everything's in tune. Jared say? Properly designed, feel like the vent should be much higher up. Yeah, it's one of those things when you and I sit down to design it, we'll kind of walk through it. The one thing that we'll have to talk about is we can't really make the vocal any shorter. Otherwise, it simply it just becomes ergonomic thing. So I'm not sure. I'm really not. So I've been thinking about Tenoroon design problems for 15 years, probably. Yeah, because I got my Tenoroon in 2005. Yeah. So yeah. Let's see, what else can I play from there? So yeah, I am the jackass who decided to write some of the most important stuff in the symphony in the freaking key of B major. But the next section here, Jared, we could try that. Yeah, we could try that. So the next section is the one I've been most eagerly anticipating trying out. It is the big, long Tenoroon solo in the 6th section of the piece. works. It's not bad. But it goes up half step from there. And a so yeah, there's going to be lots of work I've got to do there. Yeah, it is going to be different from bassoon. So yeah, I've got to just remember the fingering for high A and figure out a way to make it sound better. All right, I hope you like the book. Let me know if you ever have any questions about it. In fact, everything I just played is in the book. So if you want to just turn to the Tenoroon section, you can kind of follow along with what I'm playing, because pretty much everything, all the fun stuff is in volume 2. So I'm going to go back and I may just figure out another A flat or A natural. Yep, that. What brand is it? Not entirely sure. It is most likely a Chinese clone of one of the Wolf instruments. There's no marking on it, but I have a feeling that it is a Chinese made. So, difference between tenor bassoon and Tenoroon. Spelling. It's literally the only difference. So I pretty much in all my writing always call it a tenor bassoon, and the reason for that is before he passed away, I had some communication with William Waterhouse, who was the world's most preeminent bassoon historian, and I asked him, what did he prefer to call the instrument? What should be the correct name? And he said, absolutely, it's tenor bassoon. And so from that point on, I basically just say it's a tenor bassoon. By calling it a tenor bassoon, you leave out any ambiguity as to what the instrument is. If I called it a tenoroon, what's that? Is that an offensive term? So yeah, tenor bassoon in all formal writing, tenoroon colloquially. So if you just want to, say it faster, it's tenoroon, tenor bassoon properly. That said, that's kind of one of those debates we had when we were talking about the great bassoon. Is it great bass bassoon or just great bassoon? And because there's no precedent there, so that we can call it kind of whatever we want. Is it a bass bassoon? Is it a great bass bassoon? Is it a semi-contra bassoon? So great bassoon seems to me to be, it's consistent with contrabassoon, which is just contraction of contrabass bassoon. Using that logic, would the octave bassoon end up being an alto soprano? Yes. So what Wolf calls the octave bassoon would just technically be the alto bassoon. Simple as that. What ranges has okay, so what range does the Tenoroon have? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'll play a full range B flat scale. So 3-octave B flat scale. So this instrument is in F, so it's going to sound up a 4, so it's actually going to be an E flat scale. So yeah, and I've got to just work on the high register on this instrument. It responds differently than my old tenor bassoon, which spoke a little cleaner up in the high register. Is it true that it's a student instrument? Yes, this is a student instrument. To my knowledge, there's never really been a professional version of this. Though I could be corrected on that. And I think a true professional version would need to have a true U-joint here instead of blocking. Why do bassoonists blow into their instruments? Otherwise you wouldn't get a sound. It's a wind instrument. Takes a very sax-esque tone in the high register. Yes. So it does start getting a little bit saxy. And I think some of that just could be, I don't think the bore is proportioned right. I think it's actually a little bit more closer to a bassoon bore than it is to a truly proportioned bore. But we'll figure that out once I do all the measurements. Going up from bassoon, Tenoroon might be able to play up to an A5, which is a fourth above the E5 that can be played on the bassoon. Yeah, theoretically, yes. Practically, no. Oh, yeah, no, yeah. I got water in my holes. That's it started gurgling. So. So, do I prefer this over bass oboe? No. I have a video of me and Mikey Sluman playing Tenoroon in a bass oboe duet. Well, great. Cork just fell out. Yeah, that sounds pretty typical. I told the store owner that I'd have it returned in better shape. Why is there not a Tenoroon part in Symphony 3? The music didn't call for it. I didn't really need that lighter Tenoroon sound. That said, there are still parts of me that want to go back and do some revision on Symphony 3. Mostly because I actually never really finished it. I don't have a full score to Symphony 3 yet. Surprising. Jaden, you say it possibly has a wider cone. Theoretically, it should have a wider cone by a little bit. Just as the bassoon has a wider cone than the contrabassoon. What is Symphony 3? My Symphony 3, the symphony I wrote last year, 2 years ago. So right now we are in the process of recording Symphony 2, which I wrote in 2017. Maybe, yeah, that sounds about right, Jared. I'd have to go and look at Richard's Bassoon-O-Matic, and we'll do some work with that. But did I mention this was intended for William Tell Overture? I mentioned that was a myth, but it can be pretty easily debunked. Yes, there were Tenoroons in use in French operas at the time. They would sometimes use them to replace English horns, but that was just the Italian method of notating the English horn parts, weirdly in bass clef sounding up a fourth instead of in treble clef sounding down a fifth. But no, there. Maybe I will record the William Tell Overture English horn solo on here. Did Berlioz ever write for the instrument? No. So composers who have written for the instrument are pretty much none. There are a couple that. So when I was doing research, I came across the names of two pieces that were supposedly written with this instrument in mind. One was a partita by Frost, and the other was something by the composer Zakov. And I found the Zakov, and turns out no, there's no Tenoroon parts in it. It was a just mislabeling of something. The Frost, yes, exists. I've never seen it though. Then there's my stuff, and that's about it, because nobody's really ever taken the instrument very seriously. There is a trio by the German composer Victor Bruns, and a sonatina. In fact, I may actually be looking at the score to the sonatina. I'll have to see it. But Bruns' final two pieces were a trio for Tenoroon bassoon and contra bassoon, which I've played a couple movements of. Really a lovely piece, and then a little sonatina. Is this technically any different key than the bassoon, which I have a hunch is not B flat? Well, it's kind of B flat in that if I play the F scale, that's a B flat scale. So in the same regard that the bassoon is technically in F, this is technically in B flat. But of course, if I call the bassoon in C, this instrument is in F. Am I going to play Osiris? I might. Maybe. Who knows? I redid Osiris last year. Redid it quite a bit. Maybe I'll have another look at it. Let me play a little bit more out of Symphony 2. I'm going to play a little bit from the seventh section. So yeah, that's a little bit from the seventh section. I saw a question pop up. Ryan, why don't you just go and price some? I mean, professional violins can go tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands even. Violins are all over the map. It's comparing apples and oranges. Yes, they're both fruit, but they're different families. So yeah, let me continue playing some more from. See if there's anything really interesting left in the final melody in the section 11. It just handles that really well. Now that I'm kind of getting used to this instrument, I can get some really nice gentle sounds. Yeah, yeah. All right, let's see. What's the next instrument I will buy? Contrabass clarinet? And no, unless one falls into my lap really cheaply, the next instrument I probably would buy is a true Berm system G clarinet. But right now, I'm having more fun building them. So, but one of these down the road. Well, no, I'm gonna actually build a true one. Yeah, so that I can get the instrument that I absolutely want. So yeah, I'm gonna have to overcome some tuning stuff. Did the vocal come with the instrument? Yeah, yeah. There's two vocals in the case. The other one was just way, way, way too flat. How much was it to rent for a month? $75. So I figure that's a pretty good deal. I will probably do some more Tenoroon videos. Like I said, I'll probably do a video on the myth of the William Tell. So yeah, we'll see. But let's see. It's 8 o'clock. I've been talking right at an hour now. If anybody has any more Tenoroon related questions, go ahead and ask. Otherwise, I'm going to go find some dinner and clean up a little bit around here because it's a mess. But yeah, there's such a thing as a soprano bassoon. There were soprano or descant dulcians, but a bassoon version of that size has never been made. So bassoons are just a wildly sparse family. You only ever see bassoon and contrabassoon used. Would it be somewhat useful? Probably not. There's no reason to think about adding a soprano bassoon until you get the tenor version fixed so that it can play as well and as fluidly as a regular bassoon. Then you move on to the alto and get that more fluid. Then you can think about a soprano. I understand it doesn't play much higher than the bassoon. Is there a technical reason for that? Yes. It's all it has to do with the bore on it. It's as simple as that. The bore is not really conducive to really high playing. I think it would need to be scaled down just a little bit. It's not so much the lack of key work. It's more in vocal design, really. I rented it. I've rented it for a month. So, tenor bassoon, rite of spring. Okay. Let's start that over. And of course, the detriment of recording on your phone is that when you get an Amber Alert, it freezes. So yeah. All right. So yeah, that's the Tenoroon. The rite of spring does not sound great on here. The notes up there just do not want to come out. So yeah, I think that the vocal is clogged in the vocal tone, the vocal vent. So. And it's supposed to be a C. So yeah, anyway guys, I think that's going to be it for tonight. I may try and do a bit of recording. I may do that in the morning. It's late. I had stuff to do. Alright, so I'll talk to you later.